What motivates me to get a new army? Let's have a chat. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, today's video is a video response to Vince Venturella and his topic of the week, and that is about what motivates us to get a new army. Before we get onto this topic though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. So why did I decide to make a video response for this one? Because Vince always puts up a topic of the week and they're always really good questions. Well, I thought this one was worthy of a video because I've got quite a number of new subscribers now. And yes, my channel's been quite focused on Necrons obviously recently, but I do have a lot of other armies. So I thought it would be quite a good opportunity really to talk about my other armies that I've got. So you can see some of the other content that you may see on the video, and also because it's just a good question. So the question is, what motivates us to get a new army? So not our first army, but a new army. So my first army was Necrons, as you know. I was introduced into the hobby by someone who at the time was starting an Emperor's Children army. So that was the first army I played against, and one of our other buddies got into the hobby at the same time as me, and he did Imperial Guard. And I enjoyed my Necrons. What I noticed about my buddy who got me into the hobby was that he's very quick to change his armies. So what he would do, he really was a very good converter. So what I noticed is he built his armies to a fixed level. Usually we used to pay 1500 points then. So he built a 1500 point army, convert them all up. He hated painting, he didn't paint them. We played unpainted minis back then. And then, 6 months later he'd start another army. So I've seen him go through all the Chaos factions. He's done Lost and Damned army, he did Tyrannid army. He had a brother actually who did Orcs, which I used to play against him sometimes. And I always vowed to myself, I didn't want to be like that. I wanted my army to be a collection that I just kept, and also I wanted to paint it. So I decided to go for Necrons as my main army and just collect all my Necrons. And I had good intentions, I think like most of us, that we would only have one army. So what inspired me to get my second army was the play style of Necrons. So Necrons were very much a shooty army, and they were very good at shooting. I mean, my buddy with the Imperial Guard army, he'll vouch for the time that I took 5 of his tanks out on turn 1. He used to hate Necrons. But what I did lack in that army was Assault. And as I said, my buddy was playing Chaos at the time, and Assault was king back then. We're talking about about the middle of third edition. And Assault was horrible, and his Emperor's Children just wiped the floor of my Necrons once he got into close combat. And to be fair, I wanted a bit of that action. I wanted a bit of Assault. So when the Eye of Terror Codex came out, that's when my buddy started his Lost and Damned army, because that was in there, and I was attracted to the Space Wolves purely because they were a close combat army. So I went for the Space Wolves for that reason, and also on the flip side of that because they had great converting opportunities, and I hadn't converted a single model in my Necron force at the time. So the Space Wolves were there, A, a close combat army, B, a conversion opportunity. So that was me sorted. 2 armies, a close combat one, a shooting one. I was happy. So then what happened? So what happened then was my buddy, who likes to change his armies a lot, ended up not continuing with his Tyrannid army. However, he had bought quite a number of models, and he basically offered them to me incredibly cheap. It was a massive box of models, some built, most of them just in bits, a huge amount, and I think he gave them to me for like £100, and I paid him £50 one month, £50 the next month, and I got this massive Tyranid army. The army which you see now, which is over 7,000 points. I have added to it, it's probably 8,000–9,000 points now, maybe 10,000 with 8th edition. But yeah, really just basically I got that army because it was cheap. So that motivated me there. So you can see lots of different ways of getting motivated. I think maybe at the end of this conversation we might be talking about that there's lots of factors that motivate us to buy a new army. So I went for Tyranids because they were cheap. That was it then. I was sorted. I had 3 armies. My Tyranid army I always classed as a kick around army, an army which I didn't have to buy like a really good case for it, you know, just chuck them in an ice cream tub. Didn't really matter too much about them. A nice basic paint scheme. So I had my Tyranid, my kick around army, my Necrons and my Space Wolves. I was done. What happened then? So I was walking home from work one day, looked in the charity shop window and I saw a box of Eldar Guardians and a Farseer for about £5. Walked past, I went home, I told the wife, I said, it's only £5. So she said, oh, I'll just go and get it. So I went back quick. You don't see that type of you don't see Warhammer or 40k in charity shops very often. So I purchased them, which meant then I had to go and buy a codex, and then the ball started rolling with my Eldar force. So I bought that. Basically I got into Eldar because I had an opportunity to buy some cheap models. It didn't work out a cheap army in the end by the time I invested everything, unlike the Tyranids where I'd sort of got a massive group. But it was an opportunity for me to paint something different, which is what I really liked about the Eldar. And really, to be fair, the Eldar has sparked my interest in painting, probably more so than any of the other armies. And the Eldar is where I sort of wanted to get better at painting. Necrons I was just dry brushing. So that was the Eldar, so that was 4 armies. So what came next? So my 5th army, Dark Eldar, I can 100% blame the Dark Eldar army on Callum from Tabletop Banter, because he did what he called, I think it was the £25 challenge. So build as big as army as you can, or make as big army as you can for £25, eBay or whatever. I chose Dark Eldar because it was an army I'd never really had any experience at all with whatsoever. No one in my gaming group had it, never seen it on the table, so I thought, yeah, go for Dark Eldar. Started off as a little project, but over time with some very generous donations from a lot of my subscribers and some good eBay loots, I got to, I think it was 1100 points with £25, and then I did the challenge again for another £25, so I ended up with 2,200 points of Dark Eldar for £50. So again, cheap army, and I think this is starting to tell a story here actually. What motivates me to start a new army is a bargain, something cheap. And that brings me on to my 6th army, the Chaos army, which is now going to be Emperor's Children stroke Slanesh. I always say that because it's sort of going to have a demon element and the Emperor's Children element. Potentially it might be 2 armies, one for EOS and one for 40k, or even... Anyway, so yeah, the Chaos Army came about because I won, first of all, I won a Dark Vengeance Chaos half from Nerdopolis Prime. That started the ball rolling. And then I got massive donation of models for one of my subscribers, and then I won a few other bits and pieces. As you saw in my Saved by Slanesh video on Saturday just gone, I have a whole table full of models, all for free. You can't argue starting a new army if it costs you nothing. So that's all my armies. That's my 6 armies that I have. I don't plan on making another army, but who knows? Who knows the future? Well, actually I do plan on having another army, because I just remembered in that massive box of loot that I've got a whole bunch of Wraith Guard and Wraith Lords, all the old school ones, the metal ones. So at some point I am going to be doing an Iandan army. So yeah, that's there. But it's still Eldar, so it doesn't count as another army, does it? Harlequins. I have 30 Harlequins, so I potentially am going to be doing a Harlequin army. But that doesn't count as another army, does it? Because it's still Eldar. Yeah. So in conclusion, what inspires me to get a new army is the cost, really. I'm not in a financial position where I could just go out and say, right, I'm going to do Primaris Space Marines and just go and buy a load of Primaris models. However, if I get a few cheap here and there, win some on YouTube, get a good deal on eBay, then who knows. But I think the cost is the key factor for me, more than anything. So that is it for this discussion. I really hope you enjoyed the little chat. Don't forget to check out Vince Ventrella's YouTube channel. Really awesome guy, some great videos, fantastic painter, really good at painting tutorials. Definitely well worth checking out. Beam me up.